And we are all set. So welcome everyone. Folks are still rolling in, and that's okay. We are thrilled to have our first iteration of this video series with the School of Professional Development. Hoping to highlight some of the wonderful things going on in the School of Professional Development, as well as many of the folks that we have either teaching or affiliated with the program. So really wonderful to see everybody here. Thank you to the panelists, of course, for being here. Thank you to Giglio, who I'll introduce in just a sec, and some folks behind the scenes. Kim Jackalone helped us enormously with this behind the scenes from the School of Professional Development. And of course, Pat Malone is our commander-in-chief, and she's been really supportive with this as well. So I'd like to introduce to you the man who really did a ton of work behind the scenes to get this panel together, to get this organized. And I hope that everyone out there really appreciates and cherishes the experience and the what is here and will be shared with this group, with this really wonderful group that we have here. So without further ado, I'll introduce Giglio, who is the Director of Human Resources Management Program in the School of Professional Development. Leo, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll get right into some introductions and some questions for the panelists.
Great, thanks so much, Al, and hi everyone. It's great to see so many people out there, even though I can't see you. I can see your names on my screen next to me. It would be great if I could see you in person, but we can't. But it's great to have this opportunity to spend an hour with you this evening. And I want to welcome you to our first in a series of HR management events. You'll be hearing a lot from us in the future as we continue to try to grow our HRM program. Our goal is really to partner with as many organizations here on Long Island and actually across the country to help identify, discuss, and come up with solutions to current HR issues. We're also at the same time developing a leadership center, and the leadership center is going to serve as a hub for executive, managerial, and emerging leadership training. So by focusing on human resources and focusing on leadership, we hope to become the focal point for innovation and thought leadership right here at the School of Professional Development at Stony Brook. It's really exciting to have everyone here tonight, and it's great to have these 5 panelists here to kick off our executive series. And we have 5 different organizations. We have human resources executives from 5 different organizations represented here, and in 5 different industries across Long Island. So take in all this knowledge and information that you can. If you want, try to put some information. If you have any questions or comments in the chat, we'll try to record them. If we can, we'll try to respond to them at some point in time. So without further delay, I want to get this thing started, and I'll have the panelists introduce themselves. So why don't we start with you, Liz? Liz is muted. Don't mute. Okay,
yeah, I'm unmuting. That's my favorite thing to do nowadays, is unmute myself. Good evening. I'm Liz Uzo. I am the Chief Human Resource Officer at H2M Architects and Engineers, headquartered in Melville, but located throughout the tri-state area. We employ just about 500 employees. I've been with the firm for 33 years, so been there a while, and I have a team of 7 professionals, including a learning and development person on my team. I'm really pleased to be here. I love working with Stony Brook. I've worked a lot with Pat on STEM, women in STEM, which is a big issue. Trying to retain qualified women in the workplace, to get them into leadership positions is huge. That's my passion.
Great. I think Leo says you're connecting to audio. So why don't we go with Angela next?
Hi, everyone. And thank you, Leo and Doug. I know this is difficult to organize and it's like herding cats, but I'm honored to be here. I appreciate you inviting me in. I am I'm actually Vice President Human Resources at Dayton T. Brown. And we have about 300 employees located all over the United States, but here in Bohemia, this is our headquarters. We're an engineering and test firm, also technical services and mission systems. We're a government contractor. We have a lot of engineers. I also share the passion of trying to get women more involved in business and in engineering and in technical areas. So, it is a passion of mine. And the other thing I wanted to say is I graduated from this program many years ago, more than what I want to say, but it was an excellent program then, and I'm sure it's even better now. And I am honored to be able to participate and to help the next generation.
Leo, we can't hear you for some reason. I'm not sure why. Why don't we go with Katie next for an intro?
Hi, I'm Katie Raftery, and I'm the Vice President of Human Resources at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. The lab has been around since 1890. It is a world-renowned research institution. We have about 1,000 employees and students, and obviously female scientists are a very big concern of ours, and we've done a great deal to try and keep them, because being a woman scientist, a professor, it's pretty hard. And I'm very pleased to be here and share some of my insights.
That's great. Jill.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jill Zwagbaum. I'm Director of Talent Acquisition for the Estee Lauder Companies. I am based in Melville. The company is obviously based in New York. We have about 40,000 employees worldwide, and we are the global leader in prestige beauty. So hopefully you're familiar with our products. I have been active in the field of human resources for a very, very long time, most recently now in the talent acquisition space. So happy to talk with everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Excellent. And as we go through these introductions, you see the value of having this group of panelists together and what everybody can learn from them. Doug.
Hey, good evening, Al. Thank you to you and to Leo. Doug Silverman, Vice President of Human Resources and Operations for Nikon. We are headquartered here in Melville, New York. We have about 27,000 employees globally. So my HR responsibilities and operational responsibilities cover North America, Canada, Latin America, different parts of Europe. Been here almost 23 years, actually 23 years last week. Love doing it, love HR, love everything about it. Incredibly excited to be joined by some incredible, experienced, knowledgeable, and talented people in our field. When I am not in HR, I have had the utmost pleasure of being an instructor for Stony Brook for the past 12, 13 years. And it's been a great experience working with the students and seeing them, continue on in their career. And it's been wonderful. So looking forward to tonight.
Excellent. Leo, can we hear you now? We cannot, Leo. So I don't know, maybe you can call in as a backup. That might work. I'm not sure why we can't hear you. Okay, sounds good. You may have to go through that panelist link, Leo. Let's see what happens with it. So I'm going to get right into the questions while Leo works on an audio piece. And this is just so the audience knows, if you have any questions, you could use the Q&A feature for sure. And we'll try to get to those at the end, but the purpose of this is really to hear from the panelists, and but we could always at least have those questions in the bank and maybe get back to you at a later date. We also have the ability, if you need to chat with the panelists, if you have a comment or question that you need something to help with, I'm happy to help you. And I think Leo is coming in maybe now. But while we're waiting for Leo, the first one is really to the main group. Maybe Jill, I'll give you the first chance to answer this one though. As we know, this last year has been a really turbulent year, a really challenging year, and it's impacted all of us in so many different ways. And organizations in particular have been required to change at a really rapid pace. And human resources is really one of those components that has to drive this change. So thinking back over the last year, how has the role of human resources changed? And how has this impacted your organization, within your organization? Jill, you want to start? Maybe we could have a discussion on that.
Sure, absolutely. I think in human resources, you're told over and over again that you need to be agile and you need to really be able to move on your feet and to change directions when necessary. And I don't think you could ever find another year that wasn't as apparent as this year. So as human resources professionals, we've had to pivot from being logistics experts trying to figure out how to move people to work remotely, make sure that they have all of the technology that they need, handling employee relations concerns over COVID and people being sick and having family members and losing family members and being worried about their employment situations and family situations beyond that. So I have really seen all of my colleagues and human resource professionals across the board really having to just change hats constantly and really shepherd the employees and the organization along in the face of all these changes and just trying to figure out where we go from here. And now that we're kind of rounding the corner, we think, in terms of coming back and people starting to work again, how work is different now. What does it look like? How have jobs changed? How have expectations changed? And communication above all else too, keeping people connected, making sure they're engaged and managing some of their concerns. So I really do think that we've made a lot of changes, but human resource professionals in particular have had to change at a rapid pace.
Jill, I think you can hear me now.
Oh yeah, we can hear you now. Perfect.
Good.
And so then open that up to the rest of the group as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Jill a follow-up question. I know initially when the whole pandemic started, I heard from a lot of HR professionals that they were meeting a lot and people were meeting 3, 4, 5 times a day, 7 days a week. How has that schedule changed from the beginning to the pandemic to now? I mean, how prevalent is it in terms of HR still dealing with what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I'll speak for my own team. We would be constantly meeting to just figure out, again, what direction we're going in and ensuring that from a talent acquisition perspective, that we were able to still connect with candidates and to keep things moving. I think in the beginning, just again, my opinion in the pandemic, there was a need to continually connect with coworkers and to feel that same sense of camaraderie that you had when you were in the office every day. And that was sort of missing. So having the more frequent meetings was helping that. I think most people have kind of adapted at this point and they feel more comfortable, maybe spacing that out a little bit more, changing the cadence a little bit. I think we've all become pretty comfortable and Zoom experts or Microsoft Teams or whatever you might use. And I think that everybody has kind of fallen into a different type of cadence on that.
Interesting. Good. Thank you. How about Doug? What's your feeling on this first question?
I think a lot of what I'll say, echoes what Jill shared, and for everything minor to major, HR gets looked at and the team gets looked at for guidance, for direction, more importantly, for empathy. And it was tough. I mean, we, like many other companies, have a business continuity plan and we test it every year. And, we've been through, issues with your building when you've been through, natural disaster, moments, hurricanes, things of that nature, but nothing really ever prepared us, for something of this magnitude. And I mean, we're really the key support for the company and the catalyst for change. And employees look to us continually. And as this began to evolve, I think everyone domestically for us, globally for us, was looking towards us for guidance. And when we had to pivot, all of a sudden to a virtual, workforce, communication was key. It was paramount. It was, frequent meetings with management, how to communicate, how to work remotely, frequent meetings with everyone until they got used to the technology. We've experienced loss, within the company, and that was very difficult for us to, have to convey to the team. So we became counselors. We've become logistics experts. I've become shy of a medical degree. I've done a lot of research, and trying to, communicate with staff and communicate with the employees and really trying to connect. We did global town hall meetings so that our employees here understood what our employees globally were going through. The different mandates of countries and different mandates compared to the States. But as Jill said, we've been back to a certain extent. My team has been in the building 4 or 5 days a week since June of 2020. So we're trying to show them that at some point we're hoping it's going to be safe and there's some new normalcy, but it's going to be safe to come back into a work environment. But I think it really depends on our work environment, depends on our industry. But this has been, there was nothing that could have scripted this and nothing that could have prepared us. In the end, it was an unbelievable and at some point painful learning experience. And for those employees that are going into HR, I think this was an unbelievable year for you to really learn about the full breadth of what we do.
So do you think the status of HR has changed in your organization since the pandemic? Do you think people are coming to HR more?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Strategic advice and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think we work very hard to endear ourselves to the employee population. And yeah, sometimes, in some people's minds, HR has a stigma, and we work hard to change that stigma. But I do think so. I think because we have been the champions of communication and training, of making sure, checking in on employees, making sure that they're okay, promoting, take a mental break today, log off everyone at a certain point in the day, and just try to relax or enjoy family time. So I think all the elements came together that has people looking at us, turning to us a little bit more frequently, and has elevated that trust factor.
That's good. That's great to hear. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Katie, how about you?
Well, so we're a very international organization. We have people from all over the world, and we had to very quickly develop policies, figure out people who were stuck outside the country, people who couldn't go home. But one of the things to me that is just so not overwhelming, but such a big part of the job is COVID and the notion of, do I have to quarantine? Making almost what I feel like constant medical decisions about people and arranging, because we have on-campus staff, if someone gets sick in shared housing, where do we quarantine them? How do we handle that? And I know a lot of my peers in different organizations have said, never prepared for this kind of medical role that we took on. But I think we've been very consistent about reaching out to our employees. We may be a little different than other organizations because in the scientific world, collaboration is critical to success. And we never completely closed. I always had staff on campus, but trying to maintain that connection has been so critical for our continued success, particularly in the research that we do.
Okay, did you find there was a difference between, say, the domestic employees and the international employees and how they were dealing with the pandemic?
Well, I would tell you, I'm much, much more worried about my international employees. These were people who could not get home. So they come here and they can't go back home and they're lonely. And again, that sense of collaboration, which is so paramount at the lab, they couldn't do it because they're working remotely or they had to work in shifts. And I've been very focused on their mental health. Luckily, we do have an on-site counselor. We did a lot of seminars on mental health, but yes, there's a definite difference with the international employees because they're much more cut off.
It's very interesting. Thank you for that, Katie. That was very good. Angela, what have you seen so far?
Well, I've seen an incredible change in the way that HR has been viewed by the corporation and the employees. Both management and the employees are looking to us for guidance, for help, for counseling, for just, you know, everything to do with this, because it was so overwhelming for everybody. And we are, again, like you, Katie, we had to keep going. We're an essential business. We're a government contractor. The government doesn't say it's okay, it's COVID and you don't have to, you know, do the work. We had to have people here. And because of that, I felt like I had to be here too. So I never missed a beat other than having to quarantine once for, you know, because I was in a meeting with a few people. So that was very scary for the employees to be here, but it was my role, you know, to walk around and make sure that people felt okay and that we're there for them and that we're doing the best that we can and being transparent, letting them know when there's someone positive and letting them know what we're doing about it. It was critical. And because of that, that was like, you know, money in the bank for, you know, the future. People trusted us because at first people were very, very skeptical and they thought maybe we weren't being as open because it's something at the beginning that was such a, you know, a scary thing and we didn't know how to handle it. We didn't know what to do. We were looking for guidance. You know, I agree with, you know, Doug and Katie saying, okay, we're, you know, it's always, you know, scanning all the websites, the CDC, the health department, trying to find out what's the right thing to do and making sure we keep our employees safe. That was our goal. And I think we were very, very successful because now HR, that, you know, people look to us for even more than the COVID, they come to us for everything. And I think it has elevated the status of HR within the organization. I think that also has happened at other companies. And, you know, I open it up to other people if they feel the same way. I would imagine that because of the hard work that we had to do in HR, that it really paid off and it made the profession, the department, the view of the department and what we do is, you know, people always think, oh, you just hire and fire and, you know, you do all the fun stuff. Well, this wasn't fun stuff. This was, you know, hard work. And I've never worked harder in my whole life, but I feel that it's, you know, it was very much appreciated. So it was a good thing to happen in that way.
Do you feel a better sense of the employees today than, say, a year ago? Do you feel the employees feel more comfortable and more trusting of HR at this point because of the experience you've gone through?
Absolutely. Even more so than perhaps their supervisors, because they'll come to me for things, you know, that perhaps they didn't before. And sometimes it's just because of my level, they don't come to me. They come to somebody else within the organization. But because I was so present and walked around all the time, I still do, to make sure that everybody's okay, you know, and also to check that everyone's using their PPE and, you know, keeping everyone safe. So yes, I do think that it increased the, you know, the friendliness, I guess, or the openness of HR.
That's good. That's a positive outcome.
Yes.
Thanks, Angela. How about you, Liz?
So I think I know HR, all the HR professionals probably need a major vacation is all over because, you know, there wasn't a week that went by where we didn't see some kind of change. You know, we had to be nimble. We had to be on top of it. The research component, we much like Doug, we were back in the office on the 10th of June. So coordinating how that was going to work. And because we are an essential business, we had folks out in the field during the entire time, doing the contact tracing and dealing with any of the hits that came through. And we were very fortunate, you know, people were really cooperative. We started a video series where our CEO did a video every morning and we released it every lunchtime. We did things to keep the employees engaged. We did trivia and different events that the CEO would run. So, you know, HR was COVID central. So anything COVID related went through our department. You know, I have a team that is amazing and they're very connected out on the floor with the individuals that they serve. So people relied on us to give them information. And even today, you know, the vaccine for the younger folks, you know, opened up and helping people get vaccine appointments and instructing people on where to go. And so it really, you know, for us, we've always had good footing in the organization. So it wasn't really upping our game. It was really just changing our game and being nimble. Trying not to get people in Zoom fatigue because they're.
Sure.
We had meetings in back to back to back. It's like, oh my gosh, you got to give 10 minutes in between so people can take a little break. So I think I stayed in the office the whole time with the executive team, and it was safe. We made sure it felt safe. And I think for anyone who had sick family members, and we're still dealing with it, being there for them and making sure that they were taken care of and they had the time and they were paid. And there wasn't any confusion as to any of that was super important. We're all back in the office. We went 50-50 at one point around the holidays. We said we need to sparse out the place in the herd a little bit to make sure that we didn't have too many people. But then we came back, I'm going to say end of January, full, everybody back in the office. And we have a lot of people as well, so.
You mentioned younger employees. Did you see a difference in the way the younger employees versus the more senior employees dealt with the pandemic?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I think the some of the younger employees, and I'm not sure if maybe the parents might have been feeding them a little bit, but I think they had a lot more fear, and they also were very much like, why do I have to come back? Why can't I continue to work from home? And we're collaborative as well. I mean, a lot of the work that we do, we have teams of people across the organization, and you need to, look at the plans and talk about it. And this works to a degree, but it's not the end all. And so I think for us, we struggled probably more with the younger folks, but our HR team is entrenched. They know everybody. They know their kids, their spouses. So we have a really good connection to the staff.
Yeah, thank you. That's really fascinating. It's interesting, all the different perspectives we've gotten so far. We're just asking one simple question. Al, I'm going to turn it over to you to ask a second question.
Sure, and I'm humbled by the responses so far, and I hope the audience realizes how crucial the folks here and all of your stakeholders in your organization have taken on so much, and it speaks to the culture of your organizations, and the culture has really changed drastically, and you all have spoken to how that's changed, I think, a little bit. So I'll let Angela answer this one first, but how has the culture of your organization changed in addition to the comments you've already mentioned, and in particular, like what has been put in place to maintain a positive culture? Because this could spin, as you all know, I'm sure it did, spin to a very negative place very fast, especially as Doug mentioned, people being lost to this, just confusion around everything, safety. Angela, what has been done to sort of maintain, how has it changed the organization culturally, and what has been done to maintain that positive culture?
Well, we are a very, very traditional company that has always, we haven't really embraced previously work from home. It was rather a specialized situation. If you'd been working for us for a long time, perhaps we'd give you the opportunity to work from home at some point. And that was, thrown on its head, with COVID. We were, even in HR, we were running to Costco and getting computers for everyone. I myself went and bought, I think, 80 computers. I had my whole staff running, finding computers, laptops for everyone to work from home. So it changed immediately on a dime that the majority of our employees, other than the people, the engineers and the techs that had to be here to do the tests, were working from home, including all my staff except for me. So it changed completely. And to our surprise, one of our divisions remains at home, and they are more profitable than when they were working in the office. So we have a whole division that's not in the office at all, zero. So we have a lot of real estate that, we don't really need for that division. And it has changed. The employees are more engaged. We've been more profitable in that division, which is amazing. And nobody ever thought that would happen, because the culture of the organization was, well, if you let them work from home, they're just going to do what they want. They're going to take time off, and they're going to be, walking their dogs and playing with their kids and not doing work. Well, it's just the opposite. They're giving more, they're doing more, which is fabulous. Employees are really happy with it. Conversely, there are some people that feel very isolated, and particularly people that live alone. So we try to engage them more. And for those also that are here, that have to be here, there are just certain things that you can't do from home. You can't run, a vibration test at home. You can't, do an explosion test at home. It would be very dangerous. So you have to be here. So those employees somewhat felt, that why do I have to be here, and everybody else gets to stay home. So we had to think of things that would make it more interesting and fun to be here. So we had to do a lot of little events. We've had free lunches. We have free bagels every Friday. We had ice cream truck come every Friday in the summertime. We try to do things. We have pizza parties, so that people feel like, okay, there's some benefit to coming into the office and some fun things, as opposed to the drudgery of coming in and not being home with my children or with my, my pets or whatever. So, but overall, I have to say it has changed our company to the better. Employees are generally much more happier and more engaged. So, and we're making more profit as a result. So we're having the best year of our history right now. So we're expecting good things for the rest of the year.
Amazing. To the rest of the group, the same question, Katie or anyone else who wants to chime in?
Well, the lab we took a huge financial hit in 2020 and 2021. A great deal of our income is from people. We have 10 to 12,000 scientists who come for meetings. We do courses. We have the DNA Learning Center where all these kids come and take courses and learn about biology. And plus, as we had to cut down on science, less science is being done, which means you're getting less grant income. That being said, we are an incredibly supportive community, and our board and our president took the stand that we were not going to furlough anybody. And if you can imagine 10 or 12,000 people coming, we had 40 to 50 people who were serving them meals, who now literally had nothing to do. And we continued to pay them. And we continued to kind of get out the message. We're going to support all of you through this. We instituted monthly town halls. But again, I would say that the biggest thing for our culture, and we really are focused on bringing it back, is that collaboration. And our scientists miss the fact that they're not gathered together drinking coffee and speaking to each other. And we have different divisions. So neuroscience, plant genetics, cancer, they get together, they exchange ideas, and they come up with something new. So that's been a challenge to our culture, but our commitment to our employees, I think, has been so important to keeping people positive. And I know greatly appreciated, particularly since many of these are hourly employees. So
I would add to, I don't feel like our culture has necessarily changed, because at the heart of our company is that they truly, truly care for their employees. So every decision was made with the safety of the employees in mind. So any type of changes or safety measures that were put in place, especially in manufacturing, always took that into account to make sure that the employees were cared for, that they felt safe, that they knew that they were working in a safe environment. Again, to come back into a manufacturing plant, to feel safe enough to show up every day. And I really do feel that the employees felt that. So that's always been at the heart of our company. And I really have to credit senior leadership all the way down for continuing that and making sure that the employees felt that and knew that.
Liz or Doug?
Yeah, I think one thing that we had talked about before the pandemic hit, or right before the pandemic hit, was this whole concept of having additional flexibility in how you work. And so we had kind of developed something that, of course, we put on pause a little bit because, we had to go on kind of, COVID alert. So everybody went out, but we implemented a flexible workplace policy where we could try and our goal was to keep women in the workforce as they progress throughout their career. So if you've got young children, you need to get off the bus and get on the bus, and whatnot, that we could provide some additional flexibility to a full-time schedule. And we rolled it out last year. I think it was well received. I think there's still more work to be done. I know on my team, I have 2 people. They don't work full time, and I'm okay with that. But they work multiple different hours, but they are connecting with the employees as they need to. So I think added this is going to be additional flexibility that we need to embrace as employers. And we're a little old school. Like Angela was talking, it was kind of like, no, everybody has to be here and sitting at their desks. And I think after this it's a much different perspective.
Thank you, Liz. Doug.
Just brief, Ed, because I think they did a fantastic job covering the topic. Listen, my concern was, in a time of crisis, I think your culture becomes vulnerable, particularly when you have to make a sudden shift on the fly, Each of us have used the word pivot or something similar to that. And I agree with every one of them. I mean, it's about employee engagement. It's about transparency. It's about maintaining that open channels of communication. We have employees who can't work from home because their job has to be here. And for the first month or two, when it was just not safe, we paid them. And it was really the same way for all the employees. It's about, let's learn what's going on. Let's learn how we need to navigate this. And let's learn about, don't worry about your jobs. All right. Don't worry about your benefits. Don't worry about your salaries. Let's just learn about what's going on. And then by June, we were deciding, yes, we're going to start bringing people back. We changed the whole building, right? We conformed to what the CDC, WHO recommended. And then we have done a lot of town hall meetings. We did a lot of video chats up till then, but then we did a live video stream, and it was the CEO, the executive team, including myself. We were in the building, and a lot of employees were very surprised that we did this video from our building, and we walked them through floor by floor, showing them the safety measures and the protocols that are now going to be put in place when the time is right for you to come back. So I can't agree any more than what everyone has said. It's about being transparent. It's about maintaining employee engagement and dedicating commitment to your leadership being there for the employees.
Yeah, Doug, it's been fascinating listening to everyone here. And I was just listening from people from different industries, different backgrounds in terms of what you do on a daily basis. And it's interesting to see the commonalities and the things that you've done that are very similar, throughout this crisis. And one of the things that I think of is, in this whole world of virtual working, virtual learning that we're in, what has HR been able to do in terms of performance? And when I'm talking about performance, I'm talking about individual performance, like individual performance of people. Have you seen performance go up? Have you seen performance go down? Has it been hard to measure? Just, I wanted to get some quick thoughts on your feelings about employee performance over the last year. And Doug, since you had the microphone, why don't you go first?
Thank you, Leo. I've seen sustained performance. As COVID was being, kind of introduced to the world, we started to have meetings and enact a BCP measure to train managers about managing remote, maintaining open channels of communication. But one thing that we did learn quickly was that, or I learned quickly in the first times of working home, because I am not built to work at home, right? I need an office environment, and that's where I kind of thrive. I would log in at 7:30 in the morning, and before I knew it, it was 7:30 at night. And I saw that pattern continuing. And I at the management meeting that we had, I said, hey guys, I'm not sure if you realize this, but we're doing 12-hour days, and we don't even realize that we're doing the 12-hour days. And by 8 o'clock, I'm mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, and we're asking the same thing of our staff. So before we get, worker malaise going in, we need to address this, and we did that. I think we did it in a very timely manner. So the other thing that we did was we just put it out there to the employees. Go to your managers if you're having any issue. If there's any issue you're having whatsoever, if you're having a tough day, a tough moment, our employees, there is nobody, I firmly believe there is nobody that hasn't been directly or indirectly impacted by this unfortunate situation. In March, when we finally closed, my older son got COVID, hospitalized 3 times, and it was tough. It was a very tough situation. I had employees who somehow learned of it, so that the caregiving role it was reciprocated. But throughout the whole thing, we didn't miss a step. We really didn't. And as I mentioned early on, we unfortunately lost an employee to the virus. I think performance for us was sustained. Productivity has been sustained. I think the commitment to the company and the response that we have, which is more important to us, has grown, has elevated because of the actions that we've taken forth. I think the things that we're going to now start to really look on as we bring people back is kind of a loss of social capital. We haven't had the ability to, this is wonderful, but we haven't had the ability to sit at our coffee lounges and our coffee bars and have that face-to-face interaction, or to hear one of my really bad jokes, in the morning to start your days. So that's what we're going to start to look at. But individual performance, knock on wood, has been sustained, and we've been very pleased how employees have responded.
Has anyone seen a difference? Or does everybody have a similar experience in terms of performance? Has anyone seen a negative in terms of performance of employees?
I think it's been like it's mostly a great benefit to us that people are working more from home. I agree with Doug. When I was at home and quarantining, I was doing the same thing he was doing, logging in at 7 in the morning, 7:30, and not getting off until 7:30 at night, hardly even getting up to go to the bathroom. So it was very intense. And I think a lot of employees felt that way, but it was kind of like fun in a way too, because you were very, you were in a war, if you will. And it was, but you do burn out. Now, but there were a few employees who we had substance abuse problems as a result of being home. So that was a negative thing. And we did help them through that. And then, even on my own staff, I had one person who just didn't take well to working from home. She kind of went dark, and, I couldn't get a hold of her. And so but that was few and far between. Overall, I think it's a good experience, and it's something that worked well for us. And we had no idea that would happen. We were very surprised, and it worked very well.
Yeah, I've heard from a few HR professionals that employees are getting burned out in terms of performance, and they've lost control over how many hours employees work. Have you had any feeling like that? Has there been any thought process that goes into that?
Well, with me, we always encourage employees, like Doug had said, look, take time, take your lunch, go for a walk. You don't need to, I was a big advocate of that. I actually like face-to-face much better, and I'm the same as Doug. I thrive in an office environment. I don't do well at home. I like to talk to people in person, but this is the way of the world now. But, it's a good thing and a bad thing,
Okay.
Leo, if I can, one thing that we did with our employees, because we manage a global workforce, and sometimes our employees here don't realize what other countries are going through. In the United States, you have individual states that are allowed to do their own individual mandates. When you go to other countries, it's usually the country mandate that just kind of manages, everything in its entirety. And I would tell employees here, listen, we have employees in Italy and Germany who, there's nightly curfews. They're given a day and a time that they're allowed to go outside, go do essential shopping, but otherwise they need to be home. So you kind of put things in perspective. And I think that helped employees have an appreciation.
Okay.
And I think also giving them permission to push back on things and to say no to some meetings. So, you know, we have specific guidance on that to try to make meetings 45 minutes instead of an hour. Not to schedule things on certain days, to be cognizant of time differences, and even, you know, if you're dealing, let's say, with employees in APAC, and you know you have to have regular meetings, then you know don't have 2 or 3 meetings that week that require you to be online at 7:30 at night, or you know if you're scheduling things that you have to be on very early in the morning or very late at night, like be cognizant for you and your team of not scheduling a lot of those during the week. And you know, pushing back and saying, no, I can't attend that meeting because I'm booked from 7:30 in the morning all the way till 5 o'clock. And I echo that too. I was doing that in the beginning also. And it's not something that anyone can really sustain for a long time. So recognizing that and giving the employees permission to say no to some things.
Yeah, I think everyone was quick to go to these intense meetings, daily meetings. That's what I hear from a lot of companies. And then everyone realized that about the same time that, you know, we needed to pull back and we needed to look at that mental health and all the other issues that were going on to try to preserve the performance of their employees and keep them fresh and healthy, and because that's the most important thing. I think I'm going to turn it over to Al to ask the last question because we're running a little bit short in time. So Al, why don't you take on the last question?
Sure, and I think we could probably speak to these folks for 3 or 4 hours,
At
right?
least.
If we had the chance. But we have obviously a pretty heterogeneous audience here. We have a lot of folks that are students from School of Professional Development. We have folks from the industry coming into the HR or shifting positions into HR, students in the HR program. So I would really love to hear, and I think the audience would love to hear, what words of encouragement as for a student or someone shifting into this space as we move sort of out, if we ever do move out of this pandemic. Words of encouragement from each of you, I would love to hear. Maybe we could start. Who didn't we start with yet? Liz, maybe did we start with you yet, Liz? Maybe we'll get you to start one of these off.
Sure. You know, for me, I'm a young person entering into HR. You know, to me, the value that you show to whomever you meet, whether it be someone in networking or an interview, the follow-up piece of it, you know, making sure that you're on. I mean, right now for us, you know, responding to emails and things of that nature is super important. And just making sure that you have your value proposition in place so that when you go out there and put yourself out there to be interviewed, that you set yourself apart from another candidate, whatever that is. It could be anything. And it might be something done in a prior job. I mean, I had a very, very, very different experience prior to joining H2M. I believe that anything that you do, you can make connections. But encouragement as far as the job market is still looking for good people. Good people are still really hard to find. And, you know, if you're studious and you move it forward and you connect with people, you know, you'll do well.
So maybe we'll go to Jill. And I know, Jill, you mentioned offline about this shift too that's happening as well to the expectation almost of online or remote work too. So I'd love to hear a quick thought on that, but your thoughts on the question as well.
Yeah, sure. You know, just from a talent acquisition perspective, I've been talking to many candidates that their expectation is that they will be able to work either fully remote or some sort of hybrid, and relocation isn't really something they're interested in anymore. So I think companies are definitely going to have to consider that. It will potentially, I think, open up a big talent pool, because if you can work remotely and you can maybe get someone who's living in another state that has the expertise that you need, and you don't have to move them to New York or Long Island, which we know is an expensive market to relocate to from other areas. I think that is really going to be something that companies have to come to terms with, of how they'll handle that. So that's one end there. In terms of advice for future HR professionals, one thing I'd say is don't be afraid to try different things within HR. A million years ago, when I came out of college and started in HR, I worked in benefits, and I learned very quickly that's not where I wanted my career to be. So I moved through different areas of HR, spent most of my career in learning and development, and now have transitioned through generalist roles and now into talent acquisition. So there's always something new. There's something exciting to learn. HR is a very diverse field, and try different things. You don't know where your career is going to land you. And last plug is do not forget to network. You can, looking again from talent acquisition, when you submit your resume into an applicant tracking system, you may or may not be someone that the bots pick out as who would be good for that role. But if you have a network, if you link up with people on LinkedIn, and you can potentially find your next opportunity that way, it's a surefire way to really get your resume noticed, as opposed to just your traditional putting it in for the job and hoping that you get it. So expand your network and never stop that.
Great, thank you. And that's I can't agree with you more with the just get yourself out there, try, you never know, right? We'll go over to Doug.
For me, I started out my life wanting to be first baseman for the New York Yankees. That I thought was going to be my goal. And then when I suddenly realized that wasn't going to happen, it was a time where you fell into HR, you kind of moved into HR. And now I can't tell you how incredibly pleased I am that there are people in droves selecting HR to be their career of choice. And my students, it's probably the biggest question that my students will always ask me, current, former, getting into the career is hard. Getting into any career is hard. Starting, a career is a difficult task, but it is the most, for me and for my team and others that I've talked to, it is the most challenging career, most diversified career, but yet most rewarding career I've ever had. I mean, I've had some incredible highs, and the highs outweigh the lows that I've had in my career. I think networking, as it's been suggested, is first and foremost. If you want to go into HR and you're not a SHRM, Society for HR Management member, or at least connected through there in some way. And if you're a student in the program, connect with your instructors. I mean, connect with them, because they have such dynamic backgrounds and dynamic contacts, and the ability to, if nothing else, just give you sound advice to help you and steer you on the way. Because HR to me is like the nucleus of a company. We're in the midst of it all. And after a lot of work, all of us here, and hopefully you in the future, we've earned our seat at the executive table. We have a voice. We are turned to by the CEOs. We are turned to by people who are your hourly workers. We're turned to by everyone for guidance, resolve, assistance, and it's incredibly rewarding. And I encourage all of you to continue doing what you're doing. Reach out to us, and I wish everyone the best of luck.
Thank you, Doug. Yes, and the network goes within, beyond your courses and what you're taking, but also within, right? You could have a real great sense of community among students as well. Katie, let's go to you.
So I've had a very diverse career in HR. I've been in a law firm. I've been at Ericsson, now at the lab, and just the creativity that you're allowed to have in HR, or certainly in my experience, I've been allowed to have, really makes everything so worthwhile. I will, in terms of networking, kind of say what my president says. As I said, at the lab, we have like 10 to 12,000 scientists who come through. And every year, Bruce has a meeting with the postdocs, and he says, yes, it is really important to network, but do not come to some scientist who you really haven't taken the time to talk to and say, by the way, can you now recommend me for a job? Networking has to be genuine. It has to be, you can't just knock on someone's door and say, you know, I saw you on LinkedIn. Can you write me a recommendation, or can you establish a relationship with people? Join different organizations, volunteer. There are so many volunteer opportunities. You never know who you'll get to know. Talk to the person on the train who sits next to you. That's how I found the person who babysat for my daughter for 8 years. I started talking to her. Talk to people. That is the critical, just talk. And it just becomes very natural, I think.
Thank you so much, Katie. And Angela.
Yeah, well, the HR career, what I can say is it's, I have to agree with the other panelists. It's been, an amazing career to have, because you never have a dull day. And over the last year, it was, incredibly dynamic. It's a great career because, as Jill had mentioned, she was in benefits. I was in benefits too. I was in EEO. I couldn't stand it. I like talking to people. I like interviewing. I like interaction, counseling. So I agree with her. Find your little niche and try different areas in HR. You might really love those other areas that I hate. And that's great, because everybody has to come to the table and get that job done in HR. The other thing about getting into HR is separate yourself from the pack. I always say that. And the little things that were done years ago aren't done anymore. Like write a little note after an interview, not an email, write a note and send it, mail. It's separate. All of a sudden I remember that person, because realize that the HR person has seen probably 10, 15 candidates, and they may have thought you were great, but can't really remember you a week from now. So separate yourself from the pack. A phone call, an email, a handwritten note goes a long way in separating yourself and making you noticed by others. So I've seen that work time and time again. And make sure you know about the company. I can't stress that enough. There are so many times I interview people and I ask them, well, what do you know about Dayton T. Brown? Gee, yes, I know you do testing. Can you tell me about the company? Well, these days it's so easy to find out about a company. Just look on the internet, Google a company, and you can find out so much. And I'm still amazed that people don't do that. So if you don't do anything else, do that, because when you are asked that question, you better have a good answer and what you can do for the company. It's really important. So, but it's a great career. I encourage everybody, to try to get into it, because, and I agree that you have to be genuine about your contacts. So, great advice from everyone on the panel. I'm very impressed.
Thank you so much, Angela. So before I turn it over to Leo to wrap things up, we just, again, quick shout out to Kim Giacalone for helping, Maria Sakari for helping behind the scenes. And we have Pat Malone, who says, thank you all, such a poignant discussion. What a great great work you've done for so long and during this beyond challenging time. And it's such an example of true leadership. So she thanks you as well. Leo, I'll turn it over to you. And I just want to say thank you to Leo and the panelists from myself, and turn it over to you, Leo.
Wow. Thank you so much. This has been a really great discussion and so informative. I have 50 more questions I want to ask. I wish we had some more time that we could ask some more questions, but I really want to personally thank all our presenters for all their expert insight tonight. I think this was wonderful. I think we all learned a great deal, and this hour has flown by. I can't even believe it's been an hour. And I want to thank you, Al, for helping me moderate and doing a great job with this discussion with me. And you already thanked everybody else, Kim and Maria. I also want to thank all our participants, everybody who attended. And I hope to see you again at a next event. Our next event is going to be on June 23rd. And at that time, what we're going to do is we're going to present a presentation on design thinking and human resources. So we're going to change the pace up a little bit, but we're going to have one of these every semester. So I look forward to seeing you then, and look for an invitation as it gets closer. And also one other thing, be sure to inquire about and spread the word about our leadership training that we do here, our graduate program, and also our corporate HR cohorts. And what we do is we try to put cohorts of HR professionals together to go lockstep through our HRM program. And I believe in the chat box, Maria is going to put a link in case you're interested in getting some more information about that. And additionally, I just want to make everyone know that I'm available if you need anything at all. And my email address, in case you don't know it, it's leo.gilio, that's Gigilio, at stonybrook.edu. And I'm available to help any one of our students or corporate partners or anyone. I'm available at any time to speak to you and help you through your journey and help things, just help you get the best career you possibly can. I'll stick around if you want for a little while in case anyone has any questions. And I want to just say thanks again to everybody. You know, have a great night. And I hope to see everybody soon. And this was terrific. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Leo.
Thanks. Stay well, everyone.